All right, I'd like to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order. It is now 6:05. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see so many people here. We're kind of crowded in a little bit, but be patient with us. We're going to go. We have to go a little bit out of order with relationship to the agenda. We have scheduled a review of the minutes. I seem to have misplaced my copy of the minutes, so I didn't have an opportunity today to have you send them over again. So we'll handle that and get it ready for the next meeting. Thank you, Brittany. Now, as for the reserve fund transfers, we actually received, we have an assessor's, reserve fund transfers for the assessors and the select board. I would like that we would move that down to the end of the meeting because the second one came in, it'll fit under the other matters before the committee that weren't foreseen 48 hours in advance. So it's a little bit of an urgent one for the select board. So I'd entertain a motion to move number 2 down to number 6.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to move reserve fund transfers from number 2 down to within number 6. All those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? That is unanimous. Thank you.
I think the owl isn't working right. It's only catching that side. I don't know how much that matters, but
I don't know. We only have one participant, and that's me.
well, it's like the owl is only looking
Oh.
at
Yeah,
these three
it's
people.
a-
Yeah, and even though when you're talking, it didn't like switch to you, so I'm not sure why.
Or should the owl be blinking?
Shouldn't it switch though, based on who's talking? That's
Well,
what's-
I think it's inside the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? You guys making too much racket over there? Let's just move it and see what happens with it. See if it gets thinking a little differently.
No.
Nope. Hey, look at all the people we have now.
Now it's starting.
Hello?
It's waking
Not
up.
over here though, for some reason.
It doesn't like me.
Yeah, no, I guess we don't get to be on camera tonight.
I guess not, huh? Jeepers, I had it pointed the other. What's the deal with that thing tonight? Oh, God, technology's driving me nuts today.
I would just shut it off.
I usually have the thing over in this port, so I'm wondering if that's what its problem is. Oh, come on. Well, we'll have to.
May need some time.
Well, it may be in there. There it goes. It's done thinking. Let's turn the video on again. Technology has been driving me out. Oh, hey, look at
Yeah, well, look at Bill.
Yeah, wonder why I won't look this way. Hey.
Scared.
Apparently the thing doesn't like me tonight. So anyway, we kind of need to move this meeting along. We have a lot to get done this evening. The next on the agenda would be there aren't any interdepartmental transfers. Those generally take place in May. The next thing is old business. These are the temporarily or tentatively approved budgets from the select board. We will be talking about the CBRSD budget and the police budget in there, and the police chief will be here. She isn't here now, but at any rate, we do indeed have the Central Berkshire Regional School District. So let's get started on these budgets. As I understand, the select board hasn't done a tentative approval of the CBRSD budget. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Right, so we're kind of on our own. Actually, we're going to be out in front of it a little bit. I think they've had some other things on their plate as well. So we'll take up the registrars after CBRSD.
Sounds fine.
All right. So let's see. Everyone should have in their packet tonight a Central Berkshire Regional School District budget. And I'm going to throw up on the screen here As long as I can get to my files, we'll be in good shape then. Now, this is kind of a,
Okay.
You're all prepared.
back one. You might have it. Oh, there it is. God. I'm right at it. All right. So we're gonna share it. Go to Zooms and share it.
I guess that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Can you pass it down?
There we are. So anyways, here, we'll get started with that. We have Leslie Blake Davis, Greg Bueno, and I don't know your name here to talk from the.
I'm Becky Sawyer. I'm the
Becky
principal at
Sawyer
Crandall.
here from the Central Berkshire Regional School District, and David Stewart over there. He's kind of got himself over there in the corner. So if you'd like, you can, whoever you'd like to
Sure.
present first. I would
Yeah,
appreciate
so
it.
I can go ahead and start. So good evening, everyone. I'm Leslie Blake Davis. I recognize many of you. I'm going to just kind of review some of the highlights of our budget, and then of course you're welcome to ask questions. Just to start out, we always of course identify goals, and just so you know, part of our process is that we go to principals, we reach out to teachers, we do try to really take this approach of, talk to those people who are doing the work at our schools, and we also look very carefully at scheduling and look at things like efficiency around scheduling to see what we can do, and are there any places where we can make reductions, because it's a tricky balance. We've done this before. It's a tricky balance. It's not these aren't easy choices to make, because what we're trying to do is trying to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible to all of you, and at the same time, Dalton you have a lot of children in our schools, and we want to make sure we're offering them the best educational opportunities across the board that we possibly can. So that's kind of the balance. And for us, just overall, just so you know, it was a more challenging year than it's been in the past. Just from the standpoint of revenue sources, a big one for us was just insurance rates. So last year we were looking at a 7% insurance rate, and this year we're looking at 16%. So there are some of those things, unfortunately, that are out of our control, and they're challenges that we face. I'm trying to think, what else? Okay, so the other thing, so just so you know, because I usually get this question, is where has Central Berkshire made some efforts to be more efficient, to make any kind of reductions, and I can go over that with you. That is, just so you know, and then Greg will go over some high points as well, but that is on it's on slide
6.
It's on slides 5 and 6. So just so you know, some of the decreases we made this year, we decreased a Title I tutor at Wacona Regional High School. We eliminated and the instructional coach at Wacona Regional High School. We eliminated an administrative assistant at Nescus Middle School, and we had 3 FTEs, means full-time employees. We eliminated 3 full-time employees, which were retirements, did not replace those, and the way we did that was just trying to reschedule. We even had to look at a little bit of things like what languages we offer at the high school, just to make sure that, again, we're doing this as efficiently and strategically as we can for all of you. Some of some of the shuffling that we did at the high school is the instructional coach is retiring, and so is the vice principal. What we did is we made the vice principal a vice principal of teaching and learning to take over some of those responsibilities. We took one of the special education teachers and we reassigned them to handle more of the discipline, but from more of a teaching and learning kind of approach, so that we feel the administrative team is getting the support they need. The management around discipline, behaviors, mental health, those kinds of needs, I would say, are more complex right now. They're increasing, and we are again, those are some of the hard choices that we make. The other thing I will say is, as we make these choices, our schools right now are definitely community hubs for our children. I mean, they are providing mental health support. We're moving to, this summer, unless something happens with funding, but hopefully not, we'll be providing summer meals. We qualify now to provide summer meals, and there's a need, and we qualify, and our families and our students need that. So anyway, back to I reviewed some of the reductions that we made. Some of there's a on that slide it says additions. These are actually positions that we have right now, but they were added after last year's budget, but they've been there all year. We have a teacher at the middle school. We call them a Bridges teacher, and they are for those students who are struggling with literacy, foundational literacy skills at the middle school level. This, again, we make every effort to reach out to the community also and look for grant funding. This position is partially funded by the Taconic Foundation, so we're very fortunate. And those, just so you know, those students in that classroom have gone from, questionable attendance rates to anywhere between 90 and 100% attendance. So this sort of smaller group setting for them and very focused instruction on literacy has made a huge difference. So that's something we are keeping. We did add a 0.5, what we will call L teacher. Those are for some of our students where English is a second language for them, just because of state mandates. They weren't getting the support that they needed or the number of hours of support. We had to add that to be compliant with state guidelines. We also added a special education teacher to Craneville, and that again is really to make sure that students with disabilities who have IEPs were actually providing the services that they have on their individual education plans. And then any, where you see, if we added, it's sort of an odd number, it looks like a 2.2 person, it's a 2.2 paraprofessional, but where we would make any additions around that, again, that's usually around IEP needs. Those are students with disabilities and support that they need that we are required to provide. We did also look at, again, making some reallocations, and that means where we can make some shifts to make sure that we're meeting student needs. We look at, again, I think I mentioned that a special education teacher at Wacona High School would be supporting students, and technically they will be called a student support coordinator. We moved a science teacher to Nessicus, and that's because of increasing numbers at Nessicus, and we felt like we could reduce the number of science teachers at Wacona and still have high quality instruction in science. We moved a classroom teacher to become a shared ELA, English Language Arts, essentially a reading specialist or reading and interventionist, shared between the two small schools. Those two schools are the only schools right now that don't have any additional reading support. And the last thing we did in terms of reallocating services is we reduced a Title I reading tutor at the high school, and we looked at the English Language Arts schedule for teachers at the high school, and we were able to sort of reconfigure those classes so that one of those teachers half-time could serve to provide additional small group instruction for our students. So that's kind of the shifting we did, the reallocating, and any more than that, just in our, working with principals and with teachers, any further reductions on our end we felt like would have pretty profound impacts on the quality of instruction that we're giving our students. So, but you can ask me questions, and I don't know if you want to hear from Greg a little bit more, our Director of Finance and Operations.
The one thing I will add,
Numbers.
on the next slide, it kind of talks about our revenue source. I believe it's the next slide, yes. The revenue sources. That's kind of been our story this year with the changes in that, because overall our budget went up 2.7%. And with a 16% health insurance, to kind of keep it in that, it's kind of hard, but with the revenue changes, that's our biggest story. So you can see we had a couple grants that did go away. However, we are using some other revenue sources that we haven't used in past years. For instance, school choice. We're using about $340,000 from school choice next year for some of our expenses, as well as the big one is rural aid. So last year we budgeted about $720,000 with rural aid. Next year we're using 1.2 million. This year we did receive 1.6 million, but we don't know. We won't know until the budget process if we're going to get rural aid. If we don't get rural aid, we do have a plan. We do have money in school choice to make up for that loss, but that's once you use it, it's gone. We would like to use it on a little smaller scale going forward, but rural aid is in the governor's budget right now. If we look back a year ago, it was in the governor's budget. It came out and then went back in, so we're ready for a bumpy spring. We'll see if it's there in the end. But with these revenue changes, these are all for salaries. On the next slide, we do have some other revenue sources, one being circuit breaker.
May I interrupt?
Oh, please, yeah.
Before we move on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Pertaining to this slide, I see $772,000 increase, and this is an operating cost, and the difference between, in our budget is $309,000. Does that reflect our Dalton's percentage of the $772,000? Is that the way I should determine it?
So on the assessment slide?
Nope, we have this sheet right here, which cooks down.
So these ones, capital, is capital included on that one?
Yes, capital is a separate breakout item.
Yep.
It went from 8.9 million to 9.2 million, rough numbers.
Yep.
The delta on that is 309,000. And I'm just asking, the 309,000, is that the Dalton percentage of the 772 enumerated on this slide? The one
That is overall.
The 772 is the overall.
Overall, yes.
Right, but 309 is Dalton's chunk of the 772. Is that fair to say? I'm trying to obviously, I know I'm trying to reconcile this sheet with this sheet to make it all make sense.
And that sheet is the same as your letter that you sent to us about what our.
Okay, that's our letter. So yes, I'm trying to think, the only other thing that comes into play is the revenue. So if you go to slide 9, that's another thing that comes into play. So we have our state revenue.
So those revenue would decrease or modify the 772, is that the point you're making?
Yeah, it could be because we are seeing,
But after you do factor in the revenue.
because the so the town assessment's at 708,937. Is that the number you're talking about?
70937. No, those numbers do not appear on our sheets. And if
Okay,
you'd like
so-
a copy of this sheet so you can see what I'm talking from.
But which one are you pointing to in the presentation? Is it
I'm-
slide 5?
This is slide 5.
So that is just our salaries. That's the increases in
Understand.
just our
And
salaries.
if you look in the sheet that just was passed to you, the very first line, okay, that just talks about operating budget. This sheet here enumerates on the top title that it is
Yes,
the operating
so
budget.
what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to take the increases in our expenditures. That's our transportation, that's everything else.
Okay.
Plus the increases in our salaries,
Okay.
and then the changes in our revenues.
Increase in expenses.
So you're gonna take that
plus
slide-
Increase in salaries, plus the change in revenue.
Because the one thing you have to remember from these first couple slides, so if you look at slides 3, 4, and 5, they're using all funds. So those are increases that we're also seeing in circuit breaker, we're seeing in state, in grants, in our revolving accounts. Those are the whole big picture, our budget. It doesn't matter if it's coming out of town assessments or if it's coming out of grants.
But if I understand correctly, the increase in expense increases salary plus the delta in revenues is what equals the operating.
You're gonna
budget.
want to go
That
to
appears on my line one.
slide 8.
But they please, the answer to my question, if I have the increase in expenses plus the increase in salaries plus the change in revenues equals the operating budget, which is the first line in a piece of paper laying on a table in front of you.
That's your assessment.
Right.
But so what you're going to have to do is you're going to get an overall budget on slide 8. The overall budget increase for our operating
For the total.
all 7
And we
towns.
multiply that
Right.
times the Dalton.
So what you're going to do is we have an increase of 1.2 million. Then you're going to take off all of our state revenues. If we're using E&D, if we're using anything like that, then you get a number for town assessments. So we're seeing an increase in our town assessments of 708. Then you take that number and you take out transportation, it goes separately, and you have the overall budget, operating budget. Then you take the overall state aid we have from Chapter 70, that comes off the top. Then you have your required contribution for each town. So that comes off first. So if we have an increase of, or if our number is 18 million for town assessments. So if you go to slide 10. The first, so, right there, yep. So if you look at that column, net town assessment, we have 18,567. That's the overall. So to get to that number, the required local contribution, which is set by DESI, that comes off first. So Dalton's required contribution is 6,125,000.
Okay, how do you get that?
That comes directly from DESI. They provide us that number.
So DESI
The
dictates.
Department of Education.
Okay, good.
They dictate that required local contribution,
So by town by town.
town by town. Yep.
It's different.
So then, once you have that number off, whatever is remaining in our budget, that is what you're using your 61.61%. It's just the overage from that operating amount. And then for the transportation, all of our transportation costs go together, all of our transportation revenues go together. That number is then also,
That's
That's the 60
That's the second line item on that sheet.
that's the second, that is also
And
using
then
your
what-
61.61.
If it was $1 million and Dalton's percentage is 46%, then we pay 460,000.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Transportation is
Just trying to
completely
understand
separate.
how
No,
you-
you're
yeah,
fine,
no,
no,
That helped me.
yes.
I appreciate that.
No, and because we did do this presentation a little differently this year, with those first couple slides being everything. So we wanted to make sure we show a true picture of year-over-year increases. So I should have said that a little clearer, that those were all funds. So,
Well, I appreciate you taking a moment to make clearer. I mean, that was a lot that you blew past. That's like a Nolan Ryan fastball.
and I'm sorry, I apologize, I live this each day, so it's
No,
just
no,
in my head.
but
And
It's all good.
I'll be a little bit more dangerous next year, because I'll understand a little bit more from this year.
That's
But thank you.
oh, no problem.
And if I could steal my sheet back.
Oh, yes, please.
Thank you.
Yes.
He's a plant. Just let you know.
No, it's good, I appreciate it. But if you go to slide 9, the one right
And
before
Greg, I
this.
apologize. One last thing.
Please,
You mentioned
yes.
a number. Overall budget increase for this year is what, please?
So on
2.7%?
so on slide 3, and it's 2.7%.
Okay, thank you.
The one thing I also want to know on this slide, because it looks like we have more in E&D, because we're using more in E&D. The one thing that Finance Subcommittee did decide to do, every year we do keep $250,000 in our E&D account. It's there when we start the next year. If any emergency expenses pop up, that's what would be used. In order to get our town assessments down, they decided to use all of it. So right now, or at the end of June 30th, we will have nothing to start next year's E&D. So that's why you're seeing that increase of 261,000. It's because that additional 250,000 is being used. We didn't end last year with 250,000 more. We're just using all of it now.
And you're referring to which slide again?
Slide 9.
Slide
Okay.
9.
Sorry.
Down toward
That
the
E&D
bottom,
appropriations
you
up
see-
20%.
Okay.
And, it's kind of, we're trying to use as many reserves as we can to help the towns. So So, yes. So with all these changes in our state, so the state chapter 70, that is our aid from the state. It went up 2.2%. We're anticipating our chapter 71. That is our reimbursement for this year's costs on our transportation. We're anticipating to see a 9% increase. Transportation revolving, that is a fund at the end of last year. The school committee deposits if there's any remaining funds or excess revenue from the state, it goes into that. We did see a decrease in that this year, and there will be, I'm sure, a decrease next year as well. But with all these changes, the town assessments are sitting at a 3.97.
And the contingency revenue?
So that
chapter
is-
70, where is that? Is that just like a stabilization fund help?
So to be honest, that is, we will never see that. So that's in case we get more chapter 70 than what we're anticipating right now.
Okay.
Rather than come back to the towns for a new approved budget. We have that, but we also have 250,000 in our expenses, 250,000 expenditure line, which isn't used, so they cancel each other out.
Okay.
General question.
Yes.
Dalton's percentage rise is, of course, higher than the average percentage rise. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then mention if there are things in this year's budget that have caused that to go up, that will level out for next year's budget, so that we'll see something closer to the year-to-year average increase?
So that 3.67, higher than well, it's actually a little less than the average 3.9. But the reason where that's kind of stemming from is that required contribution, what the state can really say. Because these percentages, they do play a role in the percentages overall for town assessments, but it's much smaller than what we're actually seeing. We're seeing 13 million out of the 18 million being set by the state, which town has to pay, how much that is. So that is what's really stemming the individual increases in each of the towns.
Do you see that changing year-to-year?
It changes somewhat.
It's gonna change, it'll change in terms of your 5-year average enrollment, so that plays a role. Your required contribution, that changes yearly. What we're hoping is that we can kind of keep this stable. We don't wanna keep going up, so just, that's a conversation that finance had. If we did miss, there wasn't, just from what you've heard me say, we felt we had to go up a little bit more this year than we did last year. But the plan is to stabilize it, not to continue to go up, so.
Yeah, and I get the need for a level service budget as well, and taking that into account. But again, can you tell us the difference between the 5.65 of Dalton's increase and the 3-point-whatever increase overall? Is that because we have more enrollment proportionately, or?
So the required contribution, there's that piece to it, but that doesn't change. Like Leslie said, there's a 5-year average, so you won't see large changes in that year over year. The required contribution, which is set by the state, they look at income, they look at income and.
So our required contribution went up about that much?
The required. So if you look at that slide, I do have last year's required contribution and this year's, and if you look at each of the towns, they do match pretty closely. Not exact by any means, but the increase is kind of being stemmed from that required contribution. The other piece to it, which is the capital, that is not a 5-year average. So if you have
It's a 30-year average.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be
that
nice? No, that's year to year. It's a one. So whoever's sitting at Wacona on October 1, 2024. That percentage is what we use for the capital budget. So that could. So
that's
that.
the percentage of students that are Dalton students that
Yes.
takes out of the glop that's left after the DESI stuff. What
Nope.
percentage we get?
Yes, that's for the operating. Yes, but for capital, which has no no required contribution, it's just the capital divvied up by the percentages.
46%.
It is just a 1 year. Whoever's sitting at Wacona on October 1, 2024.
So you split
That percentage is used up by the
Yeah.
towns. So if you have 40 more kids next year in that freshman class than you did in the senior class, your percentage for the capital budget will go higher because there's no 5-year average, which is kind of protecting the towns. And that's what the other towns are seeing as well. For a town like Washington or a town like Windsor, if they have five more kids at Wacona, they're seeing that increase in their capital right away as well.
So you were mentioning that when deciding DESI's, state considers income, and you could give us a couple other factors?
It was two, income and,
They have a complex formula
think of the other
that
one.
Oh, the required
balances
contribution.
income and real estate value.
thank you,
Any,
yes.
any kind of revenue they will
Revenue,
consider,
yeah.
so it could be revenue from, real estate taxes, it could be revenue from the transfer station. They do sort of this rough calculation of anticipated revenue. It's not always totally accurate though, because sometimes they're anticipating revenue if somebody doesn't pay their
I
taxes.
understand, but it's at least a function of
And-
income and a function of real estate value.
And I will,
Yeah.
we
So-
did have a really nice presentation in January from Tracy Novak from MASC, the Massachusetts Organization for School Committees. We do have that recorded, and it's an hour or 2 hour long thing, so I know you don't have, people don't have that kind of time, but if you ever do, it was a really eye-opening presentation that I learned something new from her each time she comes, so. And she just did chapter 70 for our 7 towns, so she really detailed it well.
Well, I appreciate just knowing the variables
Mhm.
that lead into the final
Yes.
decision, so that's very helpful, thank you.
No problem.
I do have one question on the transportation funding.
Yes.
I know for years we've been kind of trying to get the state to move to the 100% that they offered when we first regionalized. We've never seen it. Has there been, at one point, a few years ago, there was some movement and then the movement stopped.
So,
Has it
Plan for
moved?
78.
So we, There are some people in the state saying that we could see around 90 to 95% this year. You talk to other people and they're saying don't use anything more than 80%. And I think that's just the state of the state. The way Chapter 71, which is our transportation reimbursement's always been, if the state needed money at some point during the year, that's where they're going to pull it from. They're not going to pull it from Chapter 70, but they'll pull it from the transportation reimbursement line. So what I did use just about 80% for next year's budget. If they do come in higher, I'll feel more comfortable going forward using a higher number. But when I spoke to Jay Sullivan, who works for DESI, he's the one that, and he's got a pulse on what's happening in the state. He said don't use a number higher than 80. So at that point, that's what I chose to do. So.
One other question, maybe possibly jumping ahead, our capital increase of 19.44%, that's our chunk of the final bond.
Yes, so we are going out for permanent bonding this year, yes.
And then when the permanent bond's done, there's none of that bonds, we're done.
Where there's no temporary bans, no,
Right.
there shouldn't be any.
We're all finished with what
Yes.
what we were taking under our belts, all we're gonna have to
It's
take
all-
under our belt.
yes.
paying
That's
for this
actually-
Unless there's any more votes for capital things in the future, this one's gonna be
We're gonna
wrapped
hold
up
off
and
probably
done.
for a little while.
I would hope so
We're still
too.
chewing on this.
Yes. No, but we did hear from MSBA that they're starting the audit process, so we're hopeful that's gonna be on the June, if not August vote.
Okay, understood.
Yes.
So this is where I'm going with this 19.44%
Right.
increase is a one-off.
Yes, you will not
Yes.
see this large increase next year.
You're promising.
Yes. You will see one come off when the 29, it comes off in FY 29, but
Okay.
there won't be an
We'll-
increase.
We'll look forward to that one.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it too.
What was June or August, what were you talking about?
So that's the audit schedule for MSBA.
Oh, the audit.
Yes,
That's the final closeout for the high school.
With the state.
yes.
A question that may be a little off topic, but maybe on topic for some discussions we've had. And since I have somebody here that may have some firsthand knowledge, vocational ed.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
how are we look, because that's coming up, we won't have that budget tonight, but actually having a person that knows
That
kind of
works.
firsthand what's going on
Yeah.
with voc ed would be probably good to
So,
find
so
out.
what we've been trying to do this year, and if you've been involved in vocational at all, you know my amazing executive admin assistant, Beth O'Connor. So what we've been trying to do is, as we have a deadline, I think the deadline, it's April 1?
Yeah.
It's April 1, so, but what we've been trying to do is not wait till April 1 to give you all that information. She, and I don't wanna take credit for it, she's been really making sure you know. You have the applications by the time we have them. We communicate to the schools and the students that anything, any decisions beyond, if you send us a form after April 1st, you have to appeal to the towns. The only thing we can sign off on is something that comes to us before April 1. So it does seem like we're getting more vocational students than we were getting. I don't have the exact number.
Oh, okay, that was,
I know.
I
I'm
was
happy-
kinda hoping to hear that, but.
No,
I'm trying to
but-
pull it up, but it's not loading.
But I'm more than, I can have that information for you tomorrow. Like, we are keeping sort of a pretty close eye on that, because that's important to you, and we know that.
Yeah.
My understanding, I could be wrong about this, but I thought that the state was saying they're going to try to provide more, an increase in reimbursement for transportation for vocational. The number I heard was 100%. Now, I could be wrong, but I was kind of hoping that would sort of offset the burden to the towns, and that would be great.
So I'm still hearing that number.
Transportation is almost
So-
as expensive as putting a kid in the school, believe it or
Yeah.
not.
Well, to be honest,
I was shocked.
for vocational in these small towns, that is the tuition
Transportation is a
in the
big
different
one.
schools is not really
Yeah.
far off.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
that one bus you need for the one kid going to McCann.
Right.
That's what's.
So I'm just hoping that number holds, that percentage holds, as this budget makes its way through the House and the Senate and those various steps, because I think that's really important.
Do you think we'll know about that come, say, October?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll know what that
You'll-
number is before.
you'll know-
We'll know the exact
July.
students too.
Oh, yeah.
You'll know
Okay.
the number of students by April 1, or, shortly thereafter.
Mhm.
Any decisions about students beyond that date is really up to the select board, to be honest with you. Technically, they need to appeal to you, because we're good about, I think, communicating
You are.
to students that this is the deadline, because you have to plan.
Right.
They-
So part of my comment was the fact that in September, you'll know who exactly is gonna go to the vocational
Yes.
school, which is why we're gonna probably have a town meeting to reduce the budget if there's a reduction in the budget.
Right, because right now
Right.
these kids are saying they want to go to vacation, but they
Right.
might decide not to, and they might
Right.
just end up at
They-
Wacona.
In
Yes.
summer, they decide, oh, I don't wanna
The
go.
one thing I am seeing a little more of, though, that I haven't seen as much of this year, is students filling out 2 applications saying, if I don't get into this school, I'm gonna apply to this school. And I'm seeing more of that, and what I can do is I can say, and towns have preferred schools, and that's,
Absolutely.
and the only way, what I do if I sign off on it, is I'll say the only way I would approve it is pending the student is not admitted to the first school. So if it's your preferred school, or if it's not their preferred school and the school they want to go to has a program that's offered that the preferred school doesn't, I'll make a notation of that on the sheet. So, and if you ever have questions about, vocational applications or something that comes across your desk, call us, because that's been something we've been really trying to make an effort to be, to communicate with you all of that information as soon as possible.
And did somebody ask how many Dalton students? So on October 1, I pulled up FY25. I'm sorry. It's taking.
It's okay. It's okay.
Well, it's taking forever to load, so I got excited when it was there.
It's not on my-
I didn't include it in the final budget presentation, but it was in the tentative.
Okay.
815.
Wow.
Yes, so we went from 837 in 23 to 815. So the 5-year average for Dalton is 821. And I'll send you that presentation so we have that number too. That's because that is where that 61.61% comes from.
Thank you.
No
Thank you
problem.
very much.
But, also just, I want to say, any more, there's a lot that goes into this budget. Some of these formulas are complex, particularly Chapter 70. I don't know how anyone really totally understands Chapter 70, but if you have any questions, you should just call us and ask. People, we get that all the time. That's part of our job. And we're happy to, provide that information.
And if you want us to ever come back, I'm right down the road too, so I'm always happy to.
Well, we very much appreciate it. You know, you're very willing to help us
Yeah.
and explain, so.
I particularly
thank you for
appreciate the
that.
fact that you've made an effort to try to decrease FTEs in a year where things are ugly.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that effort.
Thank you.
I wish the number were smaller overall,
Yes.
but at least you made that effort, and that's reassuring. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, are there any further questions for the school district?
On here.
Okay, I'll entertain it. We can, depending upon the feelings of the committee in general, we can do, I kind of think we should go with just one vote on the entire worksheet that we have here. Let me pull this up.
It's separate articles.
I'm sorry?
There's three separate articles.
We should, well, then if it's gonna be three separate articles, then let's motion each one then, if it's, that's right, I forgot that it was 3 separate articles. So okay, come on. Boy, this computer is running so slow. All right. So there's the articles. We'll take a motion for the Department 310, the operating. We'll start with the operating budget. Oh, here. Thank you. I've got, I think no, Karen has the extra. I'll look over your shoulder. So it'll be just the, a motion will be for 310.
budget, yeah.
Yeah, so what you'll say is 310 operating. So for Central Berkshire Regional School District.
All right, so we just approve them each
310
individually,
operating,
basically.
yeah,
Okay.
310 operating. So.
All right, so motion to approve the budget, department title, Central Berkshire Regional School District, department number 310. We'll start with the operating budget. Last year's operating budget, $8,907,993. It's increased to $9,216,038.
We don't have separations. We'll have a separated
Right.
payroll.
For an overall percentage increase in that budget of 3.47%.
Thank you. Increase of 3.47%, and that's warrant Article 4.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded for the Central Berkshire Regional School District operating, Central Berkshire Regional School District Department 310 operating budget in the amount of $9,216,038. And that is for our warrant Article 4 on for the annual town meeting. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yes, I heard a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
On here.
Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining. That is unanimous. Thank you. Oh, I got it right here in front of me.
All right, so motion to approve department number 310, Central Berkshire Regional School District, the transportation budget. The FY 2025 budget was $301,101. It has increased to $331,115.
With a overall percentage increase of 9.98%.
9.98%, thank you. And that's warrant Article 5.
And I'll second that.
Thank you.
Motion's been made and seconded for the Central Berkshire Regional School District, Department 310, transportation in the amount of $331,115, and that will be warrant Article 5 on the annual town budget, on the annual town meeting. Is there any discussion on this motion?
On here.
Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining. That is unanimous. Thank you. Let's go.
All right, so motion to approve department number 310, Central Berkshire Regional School District. This is the capital budget. Last year's FY 2025's budget, $1,327,950. Increase to $1,585,218. It's a warrant Article 6.
That'll be a 19.44% increase.
That's 19.44.
Roger that.
Thank you. Percent increase. Thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for Central Berkshire Regional School District, Department 310, in the amount of $1,585,200. Oh, capital. I apologize. $1,585,218 for warrant Article 6 on the annual town meeting. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation tonight. It's
Thank
you.
very
Thank
much
you.
appreciated.
And if you think of any more questions, don't
Yeah.
hesitate to reach out.
We appreciate
Please.
your support. Please know how much we appreciate it, and any other questions, please reach out.
We appreciate you taking care of it.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Right.
Thank you.
So,
We have to revisit, right?
yes, we've got some revisits and we've got some tables and we have some Tom stuff and we've got. Well, that's what I was gonna see if I could find out, when did we motion the historical commission?
It's in the book, you gotta look at the historical society.
It's in the table?
It's in the first section, I think.
Town services, Karen, you think?
Where's the budget?
General budget, right?
Sorry,
This is
historical
general.
society,
General?
what number?
Okay, we get the historical society taken care of. There you go. It should be.
Sorry,
They don't have
That's
it.
okay, we can't be part of the town report.
And they'll have the date we approve it, so we have to reopen the motion for that.
Legal counsel. Sorry, everyone. I just gotta find it.
There is no hurry, we are here until.
Oh, it's 691, Bill, it's in the first section, 691.
691. Wouldn't it?
691, historical.
Let's put it back.
the one that we decreased, they wanna increase it.
Hey, I flipped to it. What a luck. Lucky
You
flip.
have the luck of the
I do. All right, looks like, I thought we approved it on
We did.
129. Okay.
129 that was approved.
And we,
There's
That's the
going to be a
revision.
motion to, there may be a motion of amendment.
I have to get a revised one.
okay.
So you're gonna look at it, so that's probably what this is about.
Okay,
So
so,
you just have
Yep,
So-
I see what you did.
so what we need is a motion to reopen the motion taken on 129.25.
Motion to reopen this budget?
Yes,
Or-
a motion, yes, you
Okay.
can state the budget. You don't need any dollar amounts, just need to reopen the
Okay.
motion approving that budget.
All right, so motion to reopen the Historical Commission budget, Department number 691. It was approved on January 29th of 25.
Is this, I'm sorry again, please, Scott?
The Historical Commission 691.
Is that in our packet, please?
I
It is
don't,
not.
I don't know. We're doing, this is like.
Give me just a minute. I'll
We can pull it up,
I'll
though.
Put it up.
No, but there's gotta be this in here.
Let me see if I can find it.
It's like a slight adjustment to the name.
What was it? What was the number?
691. Right on it, yeah.
There we go. Ew. There we go. All right, so good news, we can see it on the smart board.
That one looks like the old one though.
Is that the old one?
Yeah, because the new ones got revised.
Yeah, that one's not, I know that one's not revised.
This is
because
the numbers.
We adjusted it. This budget has been adjusted down.
$600 and the $400, I think.
Yeah, I think we went down $1,000.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we
3,500.
went down 1,000, how much? Was it 3,500?
3,500 down to
A
3,500.
1,000 total from 45 to 35.
Okay, down 1,000 by
Yep.
35. We have two people here from the Historical Commission who would like to address this budget. Dennis Crockwell and, oh God, you're gonna
Deborah
be,
Kovacs.
Deb. I just know Deb, Deb Kovacs.
Glass.
Well, people call me Lucy, so don't let it confuse you.
All right, all right, if you would, please.
Very good, Bruce. What do you got?
On behalf of the Historical Commission, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present our request for the Commission's funding to be restored back to the original amount of $4,500. While the reduction is understandable, there are several reasons the Commission funds were fully expended over the previous years, most notably the pandemic, the town hall abatement effort, and member turnover that negatively impacted the group's efforts. Now, with new people coming on board, we're eager to contribute and breathe new life into the group. The Commission is essentially being rejuvenated. The town's extensive collection of Dalton historical artifacts needs to be cataloged and preserved for use by the current and future generations and made available to the public. We need to obtain a collection management system along with digitizing equipment and numerous archival supplies to do this. Without these funds, these long overdue efforts will be beyond our reach. Like everyone, we're experiencing increasing semi-fixed electrical costs, which likely exceed the current budgeted amount, along with necessary repairs to the Who's House HVAC equipment to improve its efficiency in cold weather. We understand that the budget is subject to voter approval, and may need to be adjusted in the future. Thank you for your consideration.
So I'll make a motion that the budget for the Historical Commission, Department number 691, in the amount of $3,500, be open for reconsideration of increasing that amount, potentially to $4,500 as requested by the Historical Commission.
This will be an amendment. This is an amendment to the original motion,
Okay.
so,
Then,
right.
so
So,
I then make it my language then that I make an amendment to the budget passed.
okay. Did you get that, Brittany? That's an amendment. I just want to make sure we have it recorded.
Give me a second.
Yes.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to amend the motion from $3,500 up $1,000 to $4,500. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes. Dennis, can you tell me anything about how much the projected efforts on whose house are gonna cost. Have you got any quotes in or any of that?
No, yes.
Yeah, $1,200 for repairs. And Jeff had mentioned,
Is any of that reflected in this budget here?
well, no, because we just got a quote from Don Davis, is that his name, Don Davis?
I think so.
Yeah, he's the guy. So it could come out of some other account possibly, but that's not the only thing that we need it for. Like Dennis read, our collection was in a big mess for quite a while during the renovation. We had things in a semi-neat fashion in our office, stored up there, and when the renovation happened, Pat came down one day and said, you need to move everything this week, everything. And you can't believe the stuff we had to move. We had to stuff it into, get big bins and boxes and move it to the church for 2, which they nicely let us store.
That was the COVID move?
Yeah, no, that was the renovation move.
Renovation move?
So besides the COVID years, so it became even more of a stuffed mess of all of our beautiful, we have a beautiful collection. We have war uniforms, we have all kinds of stuff. So we're trying to, Dennis came on the commission recently and Nancy Kane, another person. We lost Louisa, I am now the chair. Came on the mound, bases loaded, if you will. So we're trying to restore our collection to a place where it will be well cared for years, and we can get a digital thing going with the inventory. And we would like a software program that I think is what, $800 initially, and then after that, it's $100 a year. But that would be a much better way to take care of our, than a notebook that we have that's all handwritten. That's what we have for our inventory right now.
So, is the $800 for that new software, is that reflected anywhere in this budget?
We just learned about this. This is,
No, so
no,
Okay,
it's
thank
not
you.
reflected in the budget.
Okay.
No.
Well, where I'm going is I'm trying to justify the $1,000.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I'm sorry, this is a new experience for
I'm a
me.
sneaky guy.
Yeah, but
You
that's
didn't
twelve,
tell me that?
that's,
No,
But
that's
see, you've got
$2,000,
$2,000
how
in
does that
expenses
budget
that
look?
aren't in bought and
Like
buy in
this
this.
one?
So the deal is,
They
this
look
is
in historically?
1,000 towards the 2,000 you need.
Historically, it hasn't been
Right.
used.
And what's
So
happening
that's
is,
kind of where we're going.
Thank you.
what's happening is I think,
Yeah.
what's
Just to
happened
get us
over
started.
time,
When I became a member of the commission, it was right after the Truth House was, I was actually came on, we were staging it. So that was the big focus for many years, as you all know. So now we're trying to shift that to our collection. We also have the district thing we're trying to do, and that's been waylaid by Mass Historical. We're waiting for them to approve that. So while we're doing that, we're hoping that we can get our collection in really good shape, maybe have some exhibits once we get things organized. But our town really needs to see our history. And we can't do that till we find where it all is and get it all organized. So that's our hope.
Well, I share your enthusiasm, but in light of the fact that we're gonna have extremely difficult budget this year, it's gonna be ugly. The fact that you are level funding you're requesting just to be level funded,
Right.
not that you're increasing,
Right.
I think weighs in your favor. And in light of the fact that they actually have $2,000 worth of expenses this year, and they're gonna have to forego at least a portion of their planned projects. I think overall in net, they make a reasonable case for restoring the $1,000 for a net 0% increase or level funded budget from previous year. So I will
Would
vote in
agree.
favor.
I would agree. It sounds like over time, because of the lack of use, we've kind of fallen behind a bit.
Right.
And
Right.
so now we're gonna be, the next few years to come, we're probably gonna be in a bit of a catch-up mode.
Catch up, but at the same time, we're not increasing budget, so it's not like it's gonna ding us.
Yeah, I agree. Are there any further questions or concerns about the Historical Commission's budget? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signifying, excuse me, I need to,
Amended.
the amendment. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Got a little ahead of myself here. No further discussion on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment to the motion signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? That is unanimous. Thank you. For the original motion, the motion's been made and seconded for the Historical Commission at Department 691 in the amount of $4,500, comprised of expenses only. Is there any further discussion on the main motion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor of the main motion signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining. That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank you very much for
Doing
coming.
this preparation.
Thank you for listening.
Make sure you
Well,
spend
thank you
money,
for
is
taking
what I've
care of our
learned.
historical.
Well,
You know, 'cause
Oh,
that's
it's
what we
a-
look at, you
It's
know?
very
Yeah, always
exciting.
want-
It really
always
is.
wanna
Just
try
to
it.
see it.
You don't have to
I'm
get
a-
to zero.
No,
But
but
always
make sure
it's
you're
using
That's what
it.
you have
We're
things,
proud of our
maintenance
town.
or something,
We
spend
have
it,
a
you
cool
know,
town.
because then people look at it and they're like, oh, and then, of course,
Thank
you
you
have to
very
do a
much.
bunch of it.
Well, that's what's happened, is we've had to do a bunch of that this year.
Yeah,
And
no.
we've got more of it to come,
Thank
so.
you.
So the next thing
Thank you.
is,
Thank
thank
you.
you, thank you very much.
I see it. See you soon.
Was the, Tom wanted to, had asked if we would bring the registrar's budget forward, just to kind of mop that up and get it out of the way.
Is there a problem with it?
There were some revisions to it, so I'm trying to.
Is this the correct one then?
Find it, yes. We got, we kind of wanted to move that. Is it, it was on the table, if you want to check it, see, I can't, I just wanted to check it. I don't know if it was tabled and that was. Yeah, I have no idea why it's focused. Hey, go ahead.
Tabled registrars.
Yeah, we tabled it.
Yeah, it's completely different. Just,
Oh, it's like that when I'm here for a meeting.
so
too.
13.56 is 14.414,
I don't see that.
I think, right?
Okay, we're gonna, I'll entertain a motion to remove the registrar's budget from the table this
Right.
evening.
So,
So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
motion to remove the registrar's department, or excuse me, the registrar's budget, department number 163 from the table.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Motion been made and seconded to remove the registrar's budget, or department 163 from the table. Is there any discussion on the
Yes.
motion?
As mentioned in our previous meeting, I met with the registrar in regard to this budget and negotiated a $500 decrease in the budget for a net 0.94% decrease in the budget, which is basically hitting the bottom for what they can afford, but I think it's an important contribution to our overall need this year, because I believe our overall budget, town budget, is gonna probably go up in the neighborhood of 6%.
Okay. So, do we have any questions or concern with relationship of bringing it off the table to the meeting?
None.
None?
Okay.
Seeing or hearing none?
I'm
All
sorry.
those in favor of removing it from the table, signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining. Is now available for motion. Are we motioning to amend?
I imagine I am. I'm
That's-
in a motion
that's fine.
to amend the registrar's budget. Actually, before we go and I make an amendment, I want to ask one question. It was deliberated the previous time, and the suggestion of a $500 being decreased from this budget. So, how am I amending it? It's just the original budget's on the table, and the $500 decrease that we had discussed has actually occurred. So, is there amendment to it, or?
The amendment will be the $500 decrease.
Okay.
The original motion was for 13,007. Here's the original. Well, this is the original motion. The motion was made, seconded for the Registrar's Department 163 in the amount of. Let me just get it my head straightened around here. $9,656 in salaries and $4,100 in expenses for a total budget of $13,756. That is the original motion.
13,600. Those are numbers very much at odds with what I've got here, so I'll give you.
That's unless it was this, well, we have page 2, which is even different.
Because what I have here,
This
this
is
was
table in
tabled,
January.
has a value of 14,551 going to 14,956. And this was T8 on 11325.
And this one is saying 14,414.
Correct. Yep, which is down your 500 and change. Which had been discussed in, when we had discussed it on February 12th.
That's the one it should be. Yeah.
I don't have the minutes from February 12th.
I mean, it looks like we approved this budget right here,
We're
the one that
taking
you just
1,000
read
off
on
this.
129 with some reductions that we found.
Yeah, we've done some reductions.
Yeah.
I see, in my notes, I see
Because
the
then,
13.
because I don't know where these numbers are coming from, this
The
paper.
ones he just gave
The
us?
10,414 and the 4,000.
that's-
Right, we were taking 1,000 off of the salaries, and we
Yeah.
were taking 200, I think, off of the expenses. Is that what we have?
Yeah, because I have what he read out where it was 9,656 for expenses and salaries, and I apologize, and then
Yeah.
4,100 for
We decided to
Right.
table it once we
Yeah.
decided, we had the motion, is that bigger number when we had the motion.
So when I went, okay, I understand. In my conversation with the registrar, they are not in a position to be able to lower salaries by that much. They decreased the salaries, I think, by, let's see here, they went to the 5126, and they decreased 5126 from the listed amount of 1451 down to 1209. But they said we're cutting into the bone with that, because everything here is spoken for. There is no extra 1,000. That temporary employee stuff is not, is something that maybe is a misnomer. It's actually pays for extra stuff that the clerk has to do. So it's.
So we
money
cut
that's
too much
actually
is,
used. Pardon me?
we cut too much of this budget, is what you're saying?
Yeah, she said no, in the upcoming year, it's all gonna be used. In fact, cutting it by, the 200 and whatever it is, dollars is, let's see here, to be exact, it's $240 roughly, is decreasing the hours significantly, and see that it's decreasing by 15 hours, which he said is probably cutting it past what it can be cut. So I would make a motion that, given the care with which she has taken to put this particular piece together, and given that the overall net on this budget is a decrease of -1%, that if we take it as she stated it. She's also decreased $50 off professional services, and she has decreased $200 off
So
of
this
travel
is
and
the
lodging.
proposed new.
And she said there's no more fat, it's all gonna get
I would
used.
say motion to amend to this.
Do you want
Let's
it
do
by?
a motion to amend to this number, if
Yeah.
you, or if you're comfortable. Well, it doesn't
We're still
matter whether you are or
discussion.
you aren't, we just need to open it to discussion.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to motion to approve the registrar's budget, Department Title 163, total salaries in the amount of $10,414, and total expenses $4,000 for a total budget of $14,414. That is a net reduction of 0.94% of the total budget.
I'll second that, thank you.
Motion's been made to amend the registrar's budget to $10,414 in salaries and $4,000 in expenses for a total budget of $14,414. Is there any further discussion on the motion to amend? All those in favor of the motion to amend signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? That is unanimous, thank you. The main motion now reads the registrar's budget, department number 163, in the amount of $10,414 in salaries and $4,000 in expenses for a total budget of $14,414. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining. That is unanimous, thank you. I have such a mess here. So, next. We have our police chief here this evening. So, and I am, for some reason, I seem to be missing my copy of the police budget. I can indeed see it in here.
Is that not in the?
I don't know. I seem to recall it being in two, I had it in two pieces, as I recall. One piece was salaries,
Yeah, this
and the
was
other piece was, one piece was salaries, and the other piece was expenses. And I believe this looks like salaries. Let's make that a little smaller. Can you still see it? We can.
Yeah, it's, okay. Yeah.
All right, and we can scroll through, scroll. How many pages do we have this thing? Yeah, we got a couple pages going on here. One more page from. So. Where's the final salary? Yeah, I don't know why it's not in there. It's, should have been in there.
Is the police budget in here? On the
So it might
side?
be in that.
It's just points.
We have notes on it, so.
It's on the side.
Oh, here it is.
We'll see revised,
Yep, got it.
This is expenses. Yeah, expense.
Here we go.
Make that smaller. Wish I could better present this, but unfortunately I'm unable to. So if we have,
Mr. Chair,
oh, good, you have it. Hang on a second. Yeah, we
Mr.
got it.
Chair.
Yes,
question for the town accountant, please.
yes. Go ahead.
Sandy, considering all budgets that have been deliberated to date and projections we have available to us, can you tell us what the overall percent increase is estimated for the fiscal year 26 budget at this point?
Just the budgets? 5.41%.
Thank you. And for the fiscal year 25, the difference between the levy limit and the amount of levy taxes was how much, please?
Between 25 and 26,
No,
or
to
just
the 20
25?
Yeah, before we began deliberations this year, we had a certain amount that was the delta between the levy limit and the amount that was actually levied. I believe that number was somewhere in the $700,000 range.
$777,158 under the levy limit.
Okay. And what is the estimated difference between the levy limit and the actual levy we will need for fiscal year based on all the information we have available?
Well, there is two budgets one budget that's not in here, which is the voc ed budget.
Understood.
So right now, the under the levy limit in 26 is $380,988.
Okay. And what is considered, or what kind of by, in Dalton, what do we tend to shoot for as the difference between the levy limit and the actual levy in town in order to have safety factor for emergencies?
Well, we were at 1 million two years ago,
Okay.
under the levy limit. Now we're at 380,
Okay.
without a voc ed budget in there, which I think that's gonna bring it to 200 under the levy limit.
Okay.
So I would be comfortable myself if it was 400 or 500,000 under the levy limit
As a minimum, is that correct?
as a minimum. And that doesn't include, that's just the budgets, it's nothing else, because
Understood.
the other projects are funded by different
Okay.
monies.
Right. I'll entertain a motion for the police budget.
Thank you.
We looking to approve it?
Oh, you got it in there.
I believe I got the updated budget, I just brought it up here.
Motion to approve that?
Yeah, let's motion.
All right, motion to approve.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Yeah,
Police
okay.
Department at 41488
Gotcha.
150 in salaries and 193,338 in expenses. Net for the total.
I have 191. 49 expenses.
149. This is the updated one.
That one is?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is the updated one. Let's just-
All right, so motion to approve the police department budget, department number 210. Total expenses amount of $191,338. Total salaries, $1,488,150. The salaries has an increase of 10.30%. Expenses has increased by 2.81%. For a total budget amount of $1,679,488, which has a 9.39% change.
I'll second that.
A motion's been made and seconded for the police department, budget 210, in the amount of $1,488,150 in salaries and $191,338 in expenses, for a total budget of $1,679,488, a 9.39% increase. Is there any discussion? Well, let's have it, Chief.
Well, would you like to go salary or expense first, and would you like to go line by line, or do you have specific questions that you want to ask? What's better for you guys?
However you would prefer to present it. If you can, just let me know what page you need me on to talk about it.
So why don't we go page 1 of salary first? So all of these are contractual when you look at salaries from chief, executive assistant, sergeant, detectives, patrolmen. Those are all contractual salaries, so not within anything I have control over. Reserves, I go back and I do a 3-year history because I can't go back much farther than that because COVID changed everything with policing. So I try to stay within the 3-year historical data. So the reserves, my first budget year with reserve officers, that budget was $52,000. It's now down to $11,948. Because of the reform bill, we only use 1 reserve officer now. So that budget that line item got decreased by 10 shifts, down about $1,166. And that's reserve officers. Reserve officers now get full-time pay, so they're not the cheap labor that they used to be, which is what the benefit of having them was. And then matron, that is any cell watch, so anyone that comes in to do cell watch. We typically use the average of Rebecca's overtime rate because she does the most of the cell watch, and that would have to be overtime rate for her. We did go down in my vacation replacement because I have 2 children in college and can't afford more than 1 vacation. So we went down a week in that because we don't really need someone to come in and replace me because I don't really go anywhere. So crossing guard, that's just salary increase. Gross overtime, so that is 263 shifts, and what we do is we calculate the officer's vacation time, personal time, and we budget for 5 sick days per officer. They do get 15 per year, but the industry standard is 5. We don't budget for the full 15 because very rarely do I see an officer take 15 sick days in a year. They could take more than that. I did just have an officer out on an off-duty injury for over a month with his own sick time, and that's someone who doesn't use a lot of sick time, so that will, that's definitely going to be a shift in our sick time. But we do budget for the 5 days per officer. In-service backfill. So with the police reform bill, we have mandatory in-service training that we have to complete by June 30th of every year. So that backfill is shifts that get vacated for officers to attend their training.
Quick question on that, please.
Of course.
The mandatory by state law or mandatory by what, please?
By the state.
By state
Yeah.
law.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we are under what's called the MPTC, and they dictate what training we take and how much and when it's due.
Okay.
And if we don't complete that training by June 30th, we are no longer certified. So
Okay.
it's that serious. We have to.
How many trainings usually are there?
It varies by MPTC sets it. I can give you exactly what they are and how many hours. What we do try to do is to save money. Anything they offer online, we do jump on that. So sometimes we can take the online version, which will save us the money, but that's not always an offer. And they just had an issue with MPTC online training, so that is very much up in the air right now, unfortunately. We like to take advantage of it because it saves us a lot of money, saves the town a lot of money. So maternity, paternity leave. This, I will tell you, I have a very young department. Almost all my officers are under 30. They are all newly married in relationships and starting families, so we do budget for 2 maternity, paternity leave. But again, that's my best guess. I could go over, I could be under. It depends on their life, and that's a very delicate situation. I don't really want to be sending an email asking if anyone's planning on having a baby this year. So I do my best and hope that it stays 2 or below. Community policing, these are all events that we do as a department: light up the holidays, buddy walk, popsicle truck, national night out, bike rodeo, the DARE program. These are all things that we do every year as community events. FSLA, that is just, do you have questions? I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm going too fast.
FSLA means what, please, again?
That's the
Fair
Fair Standard Labor Act, I believe it stands for.
Fair Labor Standard
Well, it
Act.
says FSLA, so.
Oh,
Yeah, it should be
So that's, after they work, I believe it's 141 hours and 28 days. I'm looking at you, 171 hours in a certain amount of time. Anytime they get over that, you have to go back and add money to their overtime rate due to college incentive shift differential. Their overtime rate essentially goes up. Most communities just pay that rate with all overtime, but Dalton found a way to save a penny and a half, and they do it that way, and makes Don's life extremely miserable, and Becky's. So, but that's why they're good at math. So, so that's what that is. That is our best guess that we can do, because we can never tell how many hours of overtime officers are going to work, but we just basically go on average.
No, I just appreciate knowing
Yep.
what the
No, I know. I
average
don't
is.
blame you. Court pay. So we deducted that by 20 shifts because I felt like we were not seeing as many court cases, although we are seeing more now. The new district attorney, well, not new, but he definitely prosecutes a lot more cases, but we felt safe to go down 20 shifts of overtime for that, based on the historical for the last few years. Court coverage, we also reduced that by to over $2,800 at 40%, because we're really not seeing other than day shift officers, so we felt safe to go down in that category. Call-ins, so this is a risky one to reduce, but based on historical data, we are deducting $1,000 from this. So this is a wide range of reasons for call-in pay. So if we have a sexual assault, a canine deployment, crime scene, The sergeants are on call for 2 or 3 days per week. If they get called, they are supposed to be putting in for overtime. We just had a command staff meeting last week, and lo and behold, they've been doing an awful lot of free labor and answering calls and handling call outs on their own time, because they don't want to nickel and dime the town, so they feel like they didn't want to put in for that overtime, and they're contractually allowed to do so, but they have not been doing that. I don't know that that may change this year. I don't know. They are certainly allowed to do so. So we did go down in that. It's a little bit of a risk, but we're just trying to go based on history. If you're ready to go to the second page. Yeah, if you have a question, just stop me. So these are shift differential, again, all contractual. They're identified by specific officer. This could change a little bit, but it really shouldn't, because it's based on shift bid. So 3 to 11 officers get 11%, midnight officers get 12%, so that's what that money is, in addition to their hourly rate. And the overtime is just shift differential overtime, court coverage overtime. We really break it down line by line, so it's really easier to understand what we're doing. Again, the maternity paternity leave, that's just shift differential for any shifts that's covered. In-service backfill, shift differential. Holiday pay, honestly, is our best guess. We do 7 holidays on, 6 off. There's really no way to calculate, because we don't know who's going to be working what based on shift bidding or vacation days. Last year we were substantially over in that category. This year we could be under, but we just do our best to, they'll work 50% of the holidays. The rest of this page are stipends, contractual stipends that they get for certain specific trainings. And we did reduce the last category because we reduced the number of reserve shifts, so we reduced the number of 2% EMT stipends he would receive. Is everybody okay with that page?
Well, I'm curious on the bottom stipend. It's a stipend base rate per hour. I'm
Mhm.
I'm a little curious about what are we paying a stipend for? I don't
So
really
it
see
says
that.
it's a body cam,
Uh-huh.
and all of that is contractual, which I don't negotiate. So
Yeah. I don't see where it's, oh, there it is, okay.
good.
That's right, yeah, I was trying to find where the body camera thing is all about, yeah. Yeah, okay.
All right, last page of the salary. So these are contractual college incentive pay. Some of you may remember we used to have the Quinn bill, and we lost that. And then we went back to stipends for college incentives. So we had one officer that was taking.
Could you elaborate just a little bit on what a college stipend?
Yep.
So if you earn the degree, you get this. If
Yep.
you don't earn it, you don't get it.
So if you have a bachelor degree, which you have to provide proof that we submit to the treasurer's office, diploma, transcripts, things
Right.
like that. So if they have a bachelor degree, and it's got to be an approved degree, so you can't just go get a basket weaving degree and then get the stipend. It's got to be related to law enforcement, and it's got to be
Okay.
approved.
Then you get 500,000 or
Yes, yes, we do.
5,000.
Sign me up for some education.
5,000 per year automatic. Boom.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's, so we have it broken down by officer because we know exactly what degree they have, just so it's easier to understand it. We did have an officer last year taking classes. He is not currently taking classes, so we removed that from the budget because there's no reason to budget for it if he's not going to obtain that degree this year.
And if they get the master's degree, is that 7,000 above and beyond the 5?
No,
or
it's
is that
total.
just- that's
Total. Yep. So for a bachelor, they'll get 5,500. And for a master's, they get 7,000.
And
So
if they're taking the classes towards something, then they get the stipend automatically?
no, they have to
They have
graduate.
a certificate.
Yep, they have to
Okay.
complete it.
Got it, thank you.
So, and what I do each year is I send an email out to everyone asking, are you taking classes? Do you plan on taking classes? Do you plan on obtaining a degree of the next level by this date? And I wait on those responses, and that's how I plan for that. So,
Fair enough.
you know,
It's Just appreciate understanding that the
No problem.
degree has to be in place, what the degree
Yes.
is, and
Yep,
the master's.
and we
is
have to
just-
submit all of that and it gets approved, so.
Okay.
Can you just briefly talk about the Quinn bill? And it was here and now it's
Yep.
not, and.
So
just
back
looking at
back
it.
in the 1970s, the state initiated something called the Quinn Bill. The Quinn Bill was paid, was basically the state paid half, the town or city would pay half, and they would give you, so if you had an associate's degree, it would be 10%, a bachelor degree would be 20%, and a master's degree would be 25%.
Of your base salary.
Yes, on top of your base salary. So it was a really good incentive to have very educated, well-educated officers. I don't even remember the year. I obviously have 2 master's degrees, but I only got Quinn
Does
for
that
one
mean
of them.
50%?
No, just 25. They only let you claim one. So I was getting the Quinn bill. The state did away with it, and the town was on the hook for that. And eventually they kind of backed out of paying it, other than the people who were grandfathered in, which was me until I made chief, and then they took it away from me. So, because they're very kind and generous people. So these guys just get the stipends for their education. A lot of towns and cities are going back to that strategy because they know that compensating their educated officers make them, more well-rounded people. But so we've gone up substantially, I think, on our incentives, our college incentives.
It's
over the
roughly
last
10%.
Yeah, over the last few years, so they've gone up. So that's good. We're getting back to it. So in service, in person. So these are classes that are for our instructors, taser recertification, firearms. We do have to do CPR, first aid, first responder, all in person. Obviously, we can't do range shooting online. The state has upped those trainings substantially. We are mandated on how often we do it, what time of day we do it, how many rounds we shoot. It is that strict for us. So we have to shoot a certain amount of taser cartridges. Our instructors have to go to substantial amount of recertification and certification training. So that's what that is, and it costs all of that to make sure we send, because those are all off-site trainings. So and then these are
Just a quick question
Yeah,
on that.
sure.
When you discharge a taser, is that hoop that's on and you gotta get a new taser
No.
cartridge? You can reload
we have
those?
we carry tasers. Well, here's our department taser instructor, if anyone doesn't know, Sergeant Tyler Miller. So we carry tasers with multiple cartridges, but yes, you have to replace them, but we have them. We buy them
No, I
every year.
understand, but it's when it gets like a bullet. When you fire it,
Yeah.
it's finished. You gotta toss it out.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the continuing down, these are just contractual stipends. And this was all,
I do have a question
Okay.
on the field training officer certification
Sure.
stipend.
yeah.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6
Mhm.
officers that are getting some training certification. It's a stipend.
Mhm.
So we have. It looks here to me that we've got 6 officers training. How many in our operation?
So they are certified field training officers, and best practice standards want new officers to train with multiple officers in an agency. They don't want them to be trained by one officer because they can learn different skills and different perspectives and different ways to communicate. So we follow best practice standards by certifying multiple officers as field training officers. Actually, my goal is to have every one of us that are ready to be certified as field training officers, because that's what we should be doing, is they should have, if someone's on vacation, they should be able to jump in with any other officer, and everybody should be trained and certified as a field training officer. And it's a pretty rigorous training course that they have to attend to be certified, and then we go through recertifications and refreshers to make sure we're up to date on the best practice and trainings. And then we have drone. Nobody is a certified drone pilot yet. We are still we have 4 officers that are going to be going for pilot licenses. Finding the training locally is difficult, so we are still working on that. It looks like maybe May, but again, they're very far away, and that means we have to pay for hotels, and that puts...
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Drone training in general, it can be done online. been there, done that.
Okay, that's maybe your opinion, but not law enforcement. And we have to go for drones for law enforcement in person, and they're at the other end of the state. So law enforcement is a little bit different for drones, and then they can do the pilot school. So they have specific drone operation for law enforcement courses that we have to take to be certified. So if like you're a recreational drone pilot, online might be okay, but not for law enforcement because we're search and rescue and crime scene as well. So we have to be trained in how to document crime scenes from a drone. Sexual assault investigators and crisis intervention training. Again, crisis intervention training is a training on how to deal with people with mental health emergencies. The fact that we are at about 90% of officers trained in this is a really remarkable achievement. It means we know all of our resources, and when we deal with someone having a mental health emergency, the officers have different resources, and it's a really valuable training, and I'm very proud of our department for having such a high level.
This is crisis intervention, is that correct?
Yes, crisis intervention training. And that's a 40-hour training that they've all attended and they're all certified in. And then the last one is instructor certification, and those are certified MPTC instructor positions.
This is 210-5196, is that what you're referring to?
The last one, yeah.
And the title of all that is what?
They just call it's instructor certification. So if they have instructor certifications, then they get that stipend. And again, that's all contractual, so it's... Anybody have any questions on salary?
Excellent detail.
Are you all ready for equipment or expenses? This one's actually a little easier than salary, I think. Again, so we look at a 3-year historical fund and equipment repair. Again, risky one to reduce because if one thing breaks, if our breathalyzer breaks, MDT breaks, we're well over our budget, but we seem to be under that each year, so I'm going to take my chance on that. Cruiser maintenance, we did cut, when I say we, I mean you, cut $5,000 out of that account. We have about $6,000 to get through, so I think we're doing okay with that amount. So we stayed the same. It'll be close this year, but I think we'll be right about $20,000 spent. Professional technical training. This is the cost of training classes. So like, for example, the drone classes we have to attend, they're anywhere from $600 to $800 a piece.
This is room and board stuff?
No, this is just the cost of training classes. So
This is the, okay, tuition.
yeah, and any of the physical tests, or if we have a new hire, anything like that comes out of that account. Our annual software support. So LiveScan, which is a required machine, that was an $18,000 machine, and we successfully obtained that on a grant. So we got the equipment for free, but it is required now for police agencies to have it.
This is the camera stuff?
Nope, that's an automated fingerprint machine. So
This is the fingerprint job, okay.
So, and it connects to our IMC software as well. So if we were to have someone refusing to identify themselves, we could scan their fingerprints and the FBI can identify them if it's anywhere on file in the country.
How many fingerprints do you scan annually?
Every single day. Every arrest and every license to carry goes through that. So every firearms permit, and we are how many thousands of firearms permits per year? 6,000?
Yeah, 6,000.
So we, every time someone...
6,000 to 7,000 uses it per year.
Yeah.
Rough numbers.
Shooting going, I guess.
Well, I'm sorry?
That must be a lot
I
of
just,
root-
yeah, I was
There's
impressed
all
by
those
the
gun
amount of permit
permits.
requests.
Yeah, so we
Shooting
have an
going
immense
on.
amount of firearms permits. We actually have Becky and our detective trained to do these, to process them, because it's so time consuming. But now that we do them through the automated fingerprint machine, they are coming back much, much faster, which makes our residents very happy. So any arrest, anything like that, we do employment fingerprints for residents as a courtesy when they need them for work or employment background checks. So that machine gets a lot of use. It's actually great. And it was, I mean, we have to have it. The state has made it mandatory that everyone has to have it.
But it's very comforting that it's used 6 or 7
Oh, it's
times.
used a lot, and it's great. I mean, the technology is amazing on it. So Sistine Data Pilot. So as you guys have probably all heard me say, we spend immense amount of times doing forensic technical investigations with cell phones for electronics. That's our equipment that downloads that data, and we can print it out and review the data. We in the state police and Pittsfield PD are the only, and I think Great Barrington, are the only certified departments in that. So we're well ahead of the curve on that, but we've had that for several years now.
For that $2,800, how do you complain?
It's not too bad. It's the software for it, so we can plug a phone in, download all the data, and get our evidence and submit it
It's also some training.
to court. What's that?
It's also training too. Off of that 2,800.
Yeah, and training as well. Accreditation software. So this is what we use for our policies. What's great about this software is we've been using this now for about a year and a half. We are about 98% through updating all our policies, which most of them have not been touched since 2000. You know, over the last, and we were very out of date in some of them. We are now at 98% accredited policies. And what this does is every time there's an update or a case law change or best practice change, which is constant in the state of Massachusetts, it alerts us and we change the policy. We put them out automatically, electronically. Everyone has a certain amount of time to review them, acknowledge them electronically, and it tracks for us that everyone is well aware of the policy. Maya loves this because it's a liability, our insurance company.
Okay.
They love this because they love that we have accredited policy because we can say we're in best practice and we're following all the laws.
So when you extract, when you get an alert, you extract language from that and infuse it into
Yes.
the policy?
And then we put it out again so everyone acknowledges the new language.
But the point is that you don't have to whip it up yourself.
No.
You can extract
Because it's
from
very
it.
difficult to follow all the laws and they don't notify us, so that's what we use all that for. It's been
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
Canine software, we've had that for years. Sergeant Duryea found a different way to do it for free, which we love, so we got rid of it. Body-worn camera audit software, we decided we didn't like it. We're able to audit and document it through our own system, so we got rid of that. We just felt it was a waste of money. Field training officer software, we were utilizing that. The officer said they didn't like it. They went back to handwriting in a book, which cracks me up a little bit, but so we did not renew that either, so we saved some money there. Our live scan, that's our maintenance agreement that we have to have. The software, I'm sorry, up above when I said the live scan, that's our IMC, that's our computer software, and it got a little bit more expensive because of the live scan, so I misspoke there. The live scan itself is down here for $3,300. We got what's called the Blue Voice app, and I'm gonna just bore you with my nerdness just for a second. So the Blue Voice app is an app we all have on our work phones, and you can look up any Massachusetts general law. Our town bylaws are in there, any restraining orders, any no trespass orders, any questions an officer has. So say they're on a call and they're not quite sure of an element of a law and they want to look that up, they just push the button and they ask it a question and it immediately gives all the Mass general laws and all the elements to that law. It's phenomenal, and the best part, and Tom, I know you love this part too, Maya reimburses it with a grant, so we will get that money back. So it really is, it's free, and it's, you know, we have to pay for it up front, but we'll apply through the Maya grant. And we did meet at our safety meeting with our Maya rep, and he loves that app and says that the grant will cover that. So it's kind of a win-win for us on that. And it's really helpful to the officers when they need, if they have a question, they can just look it up. And it's, I actually just got the data in the last 90 days, they've looked up over 180 different things on that app. So I definitely think it's being used well, and it was definitely a good thing. Radio service, that's if we have a radio break, a cruiser radio, a portable radio, anything like that. We lowered that because we hadn't quite spent a lot out of that account. Again, risky because we're going to need it at some point. Self-service, we had a big bump in this because every full-time officer got a cell phone, because what's happening is anytime you use your personal phone to do with work, the defense attorneys are taking their phones and downloading them into court. And I don't know anybody anywhere that would want their personal phone downloaded into court when it's work related. So they now have designated work phones that they have to use. And unfortunately, many police departments, Lenox, Pittsfield, all of them are going to this as well. Because of this exact reason, we need to protect them from their personal data being put out into court. So,
I thought we at one point we had phones for each cruiser. And is this a kind of an update of that? Is that what I'm
every officer is
trying to
assigned their
figure
own cell phone now.
And how often
They
are
were
those
using that
upgraded?
personal cell phones. Why?
We haven't upgraded them yet. They're pretty new. We just got them in the last about 8 months.
So this is just the
I'm
uniform?
sorry, do you have a question? I'm getting like
No,
back and
just-
forth with Tom, who's asking me a question. Do you guys need something? I just don't want to miss something.
No, you
Sorry.
didn't miss a thing.
So,
Great.
this 9720 is just the annual fees for connectivity or
Right.
whatever you want.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it's a lot of money that we really did not want to spend. But again, we have to provide this for them because they are required to answer their phone 24/7. A lot of them are on call. Sergeants are certainly on call. I'm on call. Our sexual assault investigator, our detective is on call. So we just have to provide them with alternative ways to communicate. The assessment center, other purchases, excuse me, like those are just the bottled water, things like that that we have to have. The assessment center, we decided to take that out. I'm feeling pretty confident that my 3 sergeants aren't going anywhere. So I didn't feel we needed to budget for that. It just, you know, if we need it, then we'll have to ask for it, but I would rather not waste the money in a budget that we don't need. Our breathalyzer machine, that's the warranty. We have to do this every year. It went up 6% from last year. Gasoline, always a wing and a prayer on that one. We stayed the same because we look like we're gonna, you know, be relatively okay on that account. Medical, we decided to go down because we're just, again, we're fully staffed, so I mean, we could lose someone at any time, but so we just really didn't feel the need to have that much in the account. We weren't spending it, so let's get rid of it a little bit. Other supplies,
Can
which
you,
is,
can you hold right
Of
there
course.
for a second?
sure.
Since we have Dawn here,
Mhm.
would this, doesn't some of this, I'm just noticing that it says pre-enrollment costs, academy requirement costs. This is outside of our fringe, not our fringe, but our
Yeah, the
pre-employment
They pay
benefit.
for their own medical appointments and tests.
Okay, so that's,
To
it
do
isn't,
employment.
okay, I just wanted to make sure that we aren't
Nope.
kind of missing one another there.
Nope.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, thank you.
Other supplies, tasers, taser costs, crime scene, and different supplies. Becky the rock star here was able to secure us Narcan for free, and we have our op fee for free, so that's fantastic. So we lowered that by $1,000 as well. Ammo, we stayed the same. We have about $500 left, and that's going for new targets. So we usually go up by 10% on that, but we felt pretty safe to keep it the same. All right. Community policing expenses. These are our supplies, and when we do our hot dogs and things like that, that's how we pay for that. Stamps for letters from Santa, all sorts of things. Food, vet, kenneling. This is for the canine program and our comfort dog program, and that's all of our vet expenses. We're lucky to secure a lot of our vet services, basic services at no charge. Animal Inn helps us out a little bit here and there as well, and dog food, and then we have training for certification. Both dogs are required to be certified and trained each year. Kenneling we deducted because they haven't been kenneling as much, and we would probably have to kennel Tyler instead of the comfort dog, so we just, you know. General clothing, this is what we use for uniforms. If someone gets promoted, they only get $950 per year. One uniform shirt and one pair of pants is almost $500 now. So $950 goes absolutely nowhere with that. So we keep that in case someone needs like a dress uniform, or we hire a new officer and we need to supply them off the bat with some uniforms. Travel. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I apologize.
Mhm. No
So
worries.
this general clothing thing is not like every year they get a new uniform kind of deal, is it?
They should be getting several new uniforms per year because I don't want to be gross, but our job gets a little gross, and you get gross things on your uniforms, and sometimes you have to throw them in the garbage. I can tell you I worked a patrol shift this past weekend. I got some grossness on my uniform, and I was not real excited about it. I remember why I'm not in patrol anymore. They get $950. If we have a new officer, it's thousands of dollars. We have to pay for all their academy clothing. We have to pay for all of that.
You come to the finance and, hey, kick me some extra money because I got a new officer, which is fine, but.
No, this is for uniforms. So general clothing is our uniforms, our patches, everything we need for our uniform supplies. Like that's a non-negotiable. There are things in here that I would.
Well, I'm not trying to negotiate.
Nope.
I'm just trying to.
We have to have that. It's very expensive.
That's not where my head's at. and just simply trying to understand what the scoop is. I mean, I worked in industry for 30 years. I understand what it is to go through uniforms. I've had my clothes dissolved by hydrochloric acid.
Yes.
Several
So,
times. You're
yeah.
sitting there half naked.
Yeah.
So I
Yes,
understand.
so you know.
So that's not where I'm going.
Okay,
I'm just
what are you
trying
asking?
I'm just trying to understand that, you know, it's not that it's not that $950 is sitting there in case they need a uniform. It's $950 sitting there because they're gonna need a uniform every year guaranteed.
So $950 is their contractual, that's what they get per year to buy equipment that they want, like a flashlight or new boots or something like that. It doesn't go very far. So,
But the point is they're using it every year because they're burning through the stuff.
oh yeah, yeah. And you really should be buying new things every year. And a lot of them will wait till like right now because in case they rip something or, you know, so now is when we get in the spending frenzy of their uniform allowance.
Well, that was a question I kind of had when looking at this uniform thing for all these years. Been a long time. Don't we have a uniform provider, like a
Like a company?
like a uniform company
Yeah.
that cleans and cares for the uniforms for our
No, we don't
officers?
have that. There's no dry cleaners around here anymore anyway, barely anything. But no, they wash them in their washing machines.
I think
So-
they sent us.
Oh, Samco.
Mhm.
Highway has sent
Oh.
us.
I don't know. We don't do that.
Cintas. There's all
And then
kinds
we'd
of-
be paying for it anyway if we did. So let's not offer that. I don't want any more money coming out of this. Are we good on the uniforms?
I'm good.
Okay, so the travel,
Thank you.
in-service, hotel mileage, we are generally over that line item every single year because Berkshire County is completely neglected in the world of police training, and they have to travel hours each way to get to training, and if it's over a 2-hour commute, they are allowed to get a hotel. So if it's a 2+ hour commute each way, then we will offer that.
2
Most-
miles. You drive to Worcester and it's a hotel.
Well, not Worcester, but like out by Boston, if they
Yeah.
have to go 5 days in a row, that's a lot of travel.
Oh yeah, that
So we
I
have
get
to
that.
pay travel
yeah.
time, so we have to pay them to travel and then stay at class and then pay them to drive home.
Yeah, if it's free, I didn't realize you'd go for like a 5-day
Oh yeah,
training or something like that.
a lot of classes are a whole week, so that's a lot of
Yeah,
extra
no, you
time.
need. that makes
If
sense.
it's a 1-day class, we would never.
Well, yeah, so I was
Yeah,
wondering
no,
if it's
no,
like
no.
1 or 2 days. Or
Yeah,
something.
1 or 2 days, no, but if it's a 4 or 5 day class of 2-3 hours each way, it gets a little bit
Yeah.
much to be
Well, that
paying
makes
out.
sense.
So, but we stayed the same with that because, you know, hopefully we won't go over, but we do most years. Prisoner meals, we decreased that. We have to have some money available for that. We're lucky our local businesses are wonderful and they just invoice us and we just go get a sandwich for whatever prisoner we have because we have to feed them twice a day at least. And the rest are all dues and memberships that we have to have. And then the college tuition reimbursement at the bottom. Those are the 2 officers that are currently enrolled in college. So that's what they can put in for. Whether they will do it, I don't know, but they are contractually able to. And then our new equipment budget, and that's about to be completely emptied in the next 3 weeks because we have to replace all of our defibrillators and we have to get a row of chargers and batteries for our radios because our radios don't last double shifts. And Tyler and I were quick to learn that this weekend. And so we need spare batteries for those radios, and that came in at $3,000. So we have that just for batteries and a charging tray for that. So, and then all of our defibrillators. So that's where that money goes. It's basically any new equipment that the department needs. And again, each year we plan for what we need. I put it out usually 6 months ahead of time, asking shifts what they need, what equipment is getting old, what we're going to have to replace, so I can plan for that, and that's where that comes from.
On the college tuition reimbursement, if the tuition was $3,000, would they get $3,000?
No, that's-
2,000 is what they
yeah.
kick in, the rest
That's
is
yep.
theirs.
That's what their contract says that they
Okay.
can get reimbursed.
Yep, sure.
And
I'm
I
not
have 2
complaining.
enrolled, so
I'm not looking for spots.
Is that like an
I'm just trying to
annual
understand.
amount that they can achieve, or is that like the total amount?
No,
that they-
every year.
Okay, that's not bad. Actually,
Yeah.
good savings.
and that's only if they're in school. And like I said, I have 2 enrolled right now.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't seen them put in for reimbursement, have they? But they're in school now,
Well,
so
this doesn't start till July.
Oh, this is July 1st. That's right.
Yeah,
So
that one starts July 1st with the new contract.
yeah, they didn't have that before, right?
Right.
Yeah, this is new.
You're gonna get it.
And that is it for me. Sorry to be so long.
It's detailed.
I have OCD. For real. It's horrible. As you can tell, we color code and it's just easy to see it and understand it.
If you have a color printer.
Well, if you really wanted to know, I don't have a printer in my office because I only have 2 outlets and I'm like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So it's pretty fun. It's like an experiment every day to see what sparks are going to come out of my 14 plugs in an outlet. So, yeah.
Sorry to go back to one thing. I did have one question about reserve officers. And you said that you've been reducing the use of reserve officers.
Right.
And you made mention that it's some sort of regulatory action or basically the laws stating that you can't use them. Is that?
So
I was
what
wondering
happened
that
was when the police reform bill came into effect December 31st, 2020, what they did is they increased the level of training for reserve officers. We had 3 years to get all reserve officers through what's called a bridge academy. It cost the town about $6,500. We were able to get some reimbursement for that. And then what happened is once that bridge window closed, which it's currently closed, it's done, there's no more bridge academy, you have to hire a part-time officer, you have to send them through the full-time academy. For us to hire, background check, and get someone into the full-time academy costs us approximately $50,000.
Yeah, okay.
So we're not going to hire part-timers
No,
and
that
have
makes a
them
lot
go
of sense.
work for someone else on our dime. So we have 1 reserve officer left that's Bridge Academy trained, and we don't use part-time officers for that because it doesn't make financial sense to hire them, spend that kind of money, and then they can go work anywhere else on our dime. I would rather just have the full-time staff and better trained officers.
Yeah, no, that makes
So,
sense.
yeah.
I guess before that time you could utilize
So
reserve officers.
we had
a lot
5
more.
reserve
Okay.
officers. They were great. They certainly didn't get full-time pay like they do now.
Yeah.
It was a kind of like, I hate to use this analogy, but like the JV players. And
Yeah.
they would spend their time on the bench, and when we had an opening, we would pluck from that
Yeah,
group,
no, that makes
and
sense.
they
Yeah,
would get hired.
makes a lot
That's
of
how I
sense.
came in. We don't have that anymore. We have to hire people that we've never worked with. I don't love it, but it is what it is. We have, unfortunately, it's state mandated requirements. We
Yeah.
don't have that choice. And while I am a big fan of the reform bill because I feel like it holds us to very high standards where we should be, it is a very unfair burden on cities and towns because it really costs a lot of money to comply.
Well, yeah, I was
We
just
have to.
thinking it, and it kind of it makes it really difficult in terms of hiring and how
Right.
you structure
Mhm.
hours.
Extremely difficult.
You're hamstrung kind of by the rules.
That's
and
exactly the
that.
word I use
Yeah.
for it.
Because that's what I was thinking. It'd be nice to have access to reserve officers
It would be
in
wonderful.
a town like this for
Yep.
certain things.
And
or-
all small departments are in the same boat.
Yeah.
We just went away from them because it just didn't make it wasn't fiscally responsible.
Well, I'm sure a lot of towns are making the same
They are.
decisions.
Like all of our area, other than like Hinsdale and Windsor, they focus on bridge officers, but they're drying up because once they get a full-time job, you know what I mean? They're not working part-time hours. Like I know
Right,
Fort
yeah.
Windsor's been trying to hire and hire and hire, and they can't find anyone
Okay.
because they just want part-time, and just they're not available anymore.
Yeah. Sorry, I
No,
had
it's
that
a great
from
question.
that.
I appreciate it.
Police reform bill was in 2021, is that
December
right?
31st, 2020.
2020.
That's where our costs.
Yeah,
Big cost driver.
yeah, that's when Post came about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, excellent detail, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Do you know how many grants you get?
How many?
Of course, of the year, how much money you bring in from grants and all of that?
So I'm not prepared with that information, but I know we're getting a Homeland Security grant for all new active shooter equipment for all of our cars. That hasn't been officially awarded, but I was told we were gonna get it. We got the portable radios on a $41,000 grant.
We just got a $1,300 grant for our med box.
Yeah. We apply for every grant we can get our hands on. Contrary to what my budget looks like, I'm extremely cheap. I don't want to spend our money. So we get our Narcan for free. We get our Opfi, which is a fentanyl-based, like a Narcan, but a little stronger. We get that for free.
If you had to guess, what would it be about?
It depends. I don't know. It just depends what's available.
So I think FY24 we applied for $260,000. I want to say we got 140 maybe.
We
Give
get
or take. I
get
can
our-
send you the numbers,
Yeah.
but
They're substantial. I mean, I can look it up and give you a more detailed. We get our traffic grant every year, which is about $20,000. We get equipment through that, plus direct traffic enforcement. So anything we find, we apply for. We usually have good luck with the DOJ burn grants.
Yep.
Those are good technology grants. We got our camera system through that. We got our portable radios through that. We got our body cams through, well, that was a state.
Yeah,
This
the
usually,
state, yeah.
and that body cam was 130,000. So that's something, I don't know if that funding is going to dry up. We'll certainly apply for it again in 3 years when this system is up. Anything we can get by a grant, we try really, really hard.
Kind of nice maybe to know because your budget's so huge.
Yeah.
Maybe just for the public.
Yeah.
Just to know.
We could actually
Just
maybe
an
put a line
estimated
item of
amount,
grants. Would that
just
help?
would be, because it shows it is a negative
Yeah,
number.
yeah.
So which is very helpful, so
Yeah.
that people know that.
I have a spreadsheet that I keep track of. I just don't know it off the top
No,
of my
that's,
head.
that's fine.
Maybe
That's
do you,
fine. It
maybe
just
we could
gives
put
you
it in like a
general
line
idea.
item, like
You
would
know?
that would be pretty good,
Yeah,
like
it'd be
grants,
useful. It would
like
show,
just
yeah.
the details. Because we work very hard on grant funding.
Yeah, which is great, we
you know,
appreciate that.
We get, we did get a portable breath test machine through a grant through OAT. So anything we can get our hands on, we do. And like, I'm very excited about this Homeland Security because it's all shields and tactical vests, and it's very, very expensive equipment. And they're giving it to us for 4 of our cruisers. So all of our cruisers will be outfitted with that equipment. So it's really great.
Now, I heard you going up for certification, is that correct?
For certification, we
Certification?
can't get certification
You
with our
can't
building. No.
Not in our building.
Not on your building.
No,
Certification.
certification's all of that. Like
Is
we
all of
can't,
that?
yeah,
Okay.
ourselves
All right.
prevent it.
Okay.
I'm sad about it. But the best we can do right now is our policies and know that we're in best practice and in compliance. We actually had a DOJ inspection yesterday, Tuesday.
Yesterday.
She told us our cells were the worst she's ever seen. So that was really phenomenal, but we did pass with our policies and our juvenile process. So we can pass what we have control of, and I try to just make the best
So
of that.
that's fine.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
I think you've done an amazing job here. I think that the police department does an amazing job day in and day out. The only thing, because if I wasn't on the finance committee, I could get it done less, but I am on the finance committee, so I gotta be worried about the amount that the budget goes up. I'm sorry for that. But otherwise, in terms of everything else you're doing, I couldn't ask for more.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We really do our best to try to keep it down. Like I said, we review years and historical and try to lower what we can. You know,
I see that.
You know, we really do try. We get it. So.
When it comes down to this this budget, if indeed we have a rather interesting year that's going to occur next year.
Mm-hmm.
This year we'll probably end up surviving it only because we still have our cushion. But as you heard earlier on from Sandy, our cushion is disappearing rather quickly.
Right.
We ain't gotten none after this year.
This year is more or less the end of the cushion that we've had for, what do you think, Sandy?
4 years.
15, 20 years we've had this cushion to live with?
It goes up and down and up and down.
Yeah.
We looked at that not long ago.
Yeah.
And some years it goes to 100,000 below.
Yeah.
Some years it goes to, I'd never seen it up as high before, like these last couple of years back when it's been $1.2 million or $1 million below the levy limit. There wasn't a whole lot of history that way in the prior years. So-
Right. I've seen it when it's been in the negatives. So but that was many moons ago.
Yeah, so I'm talking negative too. being
Yeah,
below
I've
the levy
seen them.
limit.
So at any rate, we're headed for another negative downturn. So we need to be prepared in case some rather major cuts come our way. I just want to kind of give you the word that there may be some substantial cuts coming kind of across the board, and everyone needs to understand that, both contractually and also through our expenses. And unfortunately, the only way that we can sustain certain things at certain levels is to attempt to stay within our confines of Proposition 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be cognizant of that for the future.
I think the difficulty with public safety, specifically law enforcement, like you look at any other department budget that gets presented to you, And when someone calls in sick in their department, they don't have to fill a shift. We have to fill our shifts 24/7, 365 days a year. We have to be staffed. And, you know, that becomes difficult to plan for. It's hard to make sure we plan and budget appropriately, and we have been under budget 2 years in a row. And when I tell you we all work extremely diligently to do so and to stay within what we plan for, and then we look, and if we're over, we cut. You know, eventually we're gonna run out of cut, and we understand that too. So, but I do, you know, appreciate your patience in listening to my very long presentation tonight. I just really try to be as detailed as I can, so, because not everybody understands law enforcement. It's a complicated department. It's difficult to run sometimes. And like I said, we have to be staffed. You know, when the highway department gets a call out, they don't have to replace it. We do. You know, same with other departments. We operate differently. So, and I just appreciate everyone's attention and great questions, and, you know, I do appreciate it, so.
I know that the contracted part's out of your hands, that was the town manager negotiating.
Just desk over there.
Yes. So I focus my objection to that, so please understand that that's
I
where my
understand.
objection sits.
That's okay. Well, I do think to defend our town manager, I will say this, and he knows my feelings very strongly on this. Our police officers should not be making less than the Hinsdale Police Department or the Beckett Police Department, or we will lose them. When other agencies, Pittsfield PD just went up 25%. So we have to maintain normal pay scales with the departments around us, because when we lose them, it's 18 months to replace them and a whole lot of money. So we do want to focus on training and retention one way or another. So I will throw my thanks to our town manager for understanding that concept very well. And it's far more expensive to replace them and lose their value and lose their knowledge and training in our community than it is to give them a little bit of a bump to match the surrounding communities around us. So
We did go through several rounds of negotiation.
Yes.
And the final figure that they accepted was still less than what they were asking.
right. So, and I think they're very realistic, and a lot of these guys live here and pay taxes here. So, you know, you can't ask for more. So the three of us certainly do. A lot of our officers do. Again, they're young families with young children in our school district, so they definitely support our community in multiple ways. So I will say, you know, I appreciate
If we were
it.
not so close to our levy limit, I would feel a lot differently, given
I
how close
understand.
we are to the levy limit.
I get you.
I think that the town manager could have paid more attention to that at the time.
I think he was thinking of the
No,
long
I
game.
understand,
So.
I understand the balance, but that,
Okay,
that's
that'll be enough, thank you. All right. If there's is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing or hearing none, those in favor well, let me reread the motion.
Yeah, thank
The
you.
motion's been made and seconded for the police department. Department's 210, the amount of $1,488,000, $1,488,150 in salaries, and $191,338 in expenses, for a total budget of $1,679,488, and that is a 9.39% increase. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
There we have 3 opposed. 2, 3. We have 2 in favor. Levi?
Pass the school.
I wasn't in favor.
Who was it? I'm opposed. So we have 4 opposed, 1 in favor, and 1 abstention. Do we need a roll call? Would you like a roll call?
I think I have that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. The motion fails as mentioned. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief.
Okay. So what do we do from here with a failed budget?
We'll work it out.
That's not very helpful. Where does that go from here?
I understand. It will, when a motion fails, it goes back to the town administrator and to the select board. and to yourself.
Yeah.
And to see what can be done to rectify the reason for the failure.
Okay.
And I can kind of, I can't speak for the committee, but I can tell you, the reason I feel is we have a substantial jump in the budget, and we are struggling to balance our balance.
And we all
our-
understand
our
that this is
role.
year one of a contractual year, and that's
I-
why there's a substantial jump, and there won't be the jump the next 2 years in a contract, and that every first year of a contract is a jump based on salary increase. So as long as everyone understands that.
Well, we
And these
do.
things are very much out of our control.
We certainly do understand that.
But that's the
We've been
budget.
at it for a while.
I know you were extremely hard.
I do work extremely hard, so do
Thank you for work.
I understand that.
Thank you for
But
work.
hey, the
Thank you
school
for your
department
service.
passed, so.
All right.
With no question, so that's good. Good job. Good job. The biggest budget.
All right, considering the meeting, thank you very much, Chief. All right, we've kind of gone past our usual 2 hours. I think we're going to be kind of having to have our April 2nd meeting. It would be rather futile at this point to try to accomplish further.
Yeah.
Dawn, I apologize that things went as long as they did this evening. We usually go through these like a buzzsaw, but we're going to be here for another half an hour or so if we try to accomplish that. So, if you would be okay to return next Wednesday. We're going to have another meeting. All right. So April 2nd, next Wednesday. It looks like we're going to have that. And Tom, when do you feel that you'll have the motions prepared for the annual town meeting?
A whole lot of them are prepared now. I'm waiting for the budget as a whole mainly, and yeah, I think that's pretty much what I have, so I can bring that along to the April 2nd meeting.
Okay, so we will have the April 2nd meeting. We will go over that just to prepare everyone. And that will probably be a rather long meeting because I think we have 19. I think it is 19 budgets remaining to go through. And between now and then, hopefully I'll steal some time. We'll go down through and double check and make sure all of the budgets have been prepared. And when we're sitting here next week, we can polish off the budgets. I can write my finance committee, write my finance committee report, and we can get that published. And then hopefully we'll have time enough to complete the motions. That being said, if we are able to complete that, I can cancel I'll be able to cancel the regular meeting, which would be on the 14th, I think.
I think so.
Oh, come on. I think it's the 9th.
Or is it the 2nd, was it the 9th?
Yeah, it would be the 9th. I apologize. So that would be, so we would be going 3 weeks in a row, and I'm trying to avoid that if we can. All right? If we can. Right? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Well, that's out of here. Is there any discussion? A motion been made and seconded to adjourn. Is there any discussion? Seeing or hearing none. All those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? Tom.